Welcome back to another episode of Build Day TV. I'm Alastair Cooke, and this is the second episode in our series looking at the VMware SD-WAN solution. In the previous episode, Rohan Naggi ran us through the SD-WAN 101, what and why and how. And Rohan is with me again in this episode. What's our plan for today?
So this is where we are going to unbox the Edge device. Actually, Jeffrey is going to unbox the device and we'll do the zero-touch provisioning, the Edge activation. We'll bring up sites. We'll check out the end-to-end connectivity when there are multiple Edge devices. So I have my home Edge device pre-populated, which is pre-activated. That's what I mean. There are some machines behind that Edge device. Jeffrey will have the same. You are also going to do a virtual Edge installations on AWS platform in New Zealand region. So these are some of the tasks which we are going to perform. That's where this zero-touch configuration, zero-touch provisioning, and industry standard keyword comes to play. Zero-touch provisioning or a low IT touch provisioning of these Edge devices so that you don't have to send an IT staff or an IT person to that branch location or to a remote location. But before we get started off with this zero-touch provisioning, let's quickly touch base on this profile because that's the key to VMware SD-WAN. So when you configure and device, you will be asked which profile it belongs to. Profile is like a template or, it's a kind of a group where you can group multiple Edge devices into that single template or a profile. So imagine if you have 100 devices, you don't have to go to each and individual device and do the configuration. It's like you can do that configuration from the profile, and those 100 Edge devices which are part of that profile will get that configuration. So profiles can be based on, location, role, or those kind of things. An automated way to kind of push the configuration or do the configuration for multiple Edge devices. And by the way, again, there is no CLI. Everything you do it from the orchestrator.
So this profile is a collection of policies that we're going to apply to a collection of devices, essentially.
Correct. You are right. And you can move devices, between profiles also. You can limit a profile. You can say that, hey, if I have created I want to create a virtual profile, which will have all the virtual devices there for the Edge device. And if I try to add my, let's say, Edge 510, which is a hardware appliance to that profile, I'll not be allowed to add. So the profile will restrict.
Nice.
So that's one way of seeing at the profile.
That's avoiding administrative error leading to invalid profiles being attached or incorrect profiles. Nice.
Yeah. So the next is unboxing. We have drop shipped this Edge device, Edge 510, which is the hardware to the East Coast to Jeffrey's home location. And we will go through this unboxing, and then we will do the zero-touch provisioning of that same device. Again, my device is already activated at my home, which is in West Coast. And from the orchestrator, we will see all these devices. 3 devices should become from my home, Jeffrey's home, and then from your location.
So to show you that end user experience of being the customer who's deploying this thing, Jeffrey's going to show us the unboxing, then we'll come back and Rohan will walk through the actual server-side part of that configuration. But let's start with opening up the big cardboard box.
All right, let's open this up. It's fairly straightforward on the opening. We've got some cardboard here, and it looks like it's just going to pull the whole thing up here. And it's going to be looks like it's a box within a box. So let's pull this up. Be very careful not to separate the cardboard. We'll move this out of the way. And then we'll bring these two side. These are basically padding to keep this nice and protected. So that's pretty cool. Slides out just like this. So let's go ahead and slide it out. There we go. There it is. And then as we open it up, it'll open up like that. A nice sound. All right, there we go. Inside, what do we have? We start with this right here. This is the cloud is the network. Thank you. Your zero-touch install experience is moments away. And it's got full instructions on how it installs. Let's go ahead and pull this out a little bit more. We've got some, oh, that looks like, I don't know if that's a box. We just pulled off a film, which is attached there. We'll set that there. It feels just like an empty box right here, just for padding. But we'll open it up just to make absolutely sure. Totally empty there. So we'll move that over here. And then we'll pull the appliance out. Looks pretty straightforward on that. We'll take a look at that in a second. Let's pull out everything out of the box here. A little insert here. We have the power supply. So it's DC output, 12 volt DC output right there. As you can see, we got the regular 3-prong plug in here. And of course, we have a screw locking mechanism on the plug, so it does not unplug itself. And we'll plug that in a little bit here. What else do we have in the box here? We've got a basic Ethernet, probably a Cat5e cable right there. We have another Cat5e cable to your different sources. It looks like we have some side rails if you need to mount it, rack mount it for any reason. And then, of course, the regular 3-prong power plug that plugs it in. And that's pretty much it. So let's put this out here. Right here, as you see, we've got, this is the indicator level light, which will basically tell you if things are working or not. You want it to be green, it will be activated at that point. Red is no active WAN connection. Yellow is an internet connection, but the device has not been activated. And blue is the device is functioning in a standby high availability configuration. So there's also some service lights. It'll turn white for initial power on, a flashing blue for a system reset, and a flashing white to identify a function invoked from the SD-WAN orchestrator. On the side here, it looks like we have a Kensington lock and a USB 2 port here, super speed USB 2. And then let's take a look at the back. Now, on the back here, we have 4 1 gig Ethernet plugs. So basically they will plug into your sources. They're GE1, GE2, GE3, GE4. Over here, it looks like it's an expansion port of some type. We have the 12 volt plug right here and then a simple reset button. On this side, we have another USB. It says USB 1. So maybe this was these are both super speed. This is the second USB. And then this is the first USB unit right there. When you plug in your internet, you plug into GE3, and when you plug into your secondary source, you plug into GE4. So let's go ahead and plug it in and see what it's going to do. It's, of course, we're not going to be able to get any internet on it because it's not going to be connected just yet, but at least you'll see the front lights flash in here. So we'll take that out and we'll put the plug in and then we'll tie it down. We'll screw it down a little bit. Let's zoom out a touch. Screw that in and then we'll take the power here and I'll plug it right into. Oh, and as you can see, now this has got a solid blue on it right now. I'm guessing this will change a little bit as we go. All right, now it's flashing. It's probably reset itself. It's now at red, which means that there's no active WAN connection. That is perfect. So what we'll do is we'll plug in cables and see what happens. I can plug in a cable right now and into GE3. All right, so let's plug this into GE3 and see how that works. And now we should see green. Now I have the internet. I just have one connection right now, and that went into GE3. And then I pushed it into my computer through GE1. So this cable is going to the computer. This one's going to the internet right now.
All right, now that Jeffrey's got the box open up, what's our process to get that box actually working along here?
So that's where this zero-touch provisioning starts. And like I mentioned with VMware SD-WAN, simplicity is the key here. We can deploy in minutes. 3 simple steps we perform. So as an enterprise admin who has access to the orchestrator, I'm going to create a site. During the creation of the site, it will generate a unique activation key. So that activation key will get embedded into a link, and I will email that link to Jeffrey. Jeffrey will unbox the device. He will connect a power cable. He'll connect the internet cable. That's what is there in step number 2 out here. And then he will connect his laptop, mobile phone, or any device using Wi-Fi connection or a LAN cable to that edge device, and he will simply click on that email link for the activation process to start. And that's where the communication between the edge device and the orchestrator happens in a secure fashion, where they exchange the key, and that's where the edge device gets activated. Once the edge device gets activated, then the orchestrator, you do the management configuration, everything from the orchestrator out there. So with that, let me switch over my screen to the orchestrator, and then let's create that step number 1, which is create config and send the key. But the key here, with the simplicity built into this zero-touch provisioning, is there is no IT staff required. There is no security risk if the device is lost, or there is no kind of site-to-site link I need to inquire from Jeffrey. Hey, how many links you have, or what kind of a link you have, what are the IP addresses. No prior knowledge of WAN circuits are required from the IP addressing or which service provider. At the same time, no tracking by serial number is required from my side as an enterprise admin. I don't need to type in his serial number or ask his serial number. So as an enterprise admin, I'm going to sign in to the orchestrator. As an enterprise admin, I'll sign into the orchestrator, and you can see here in the monitor tab, it just gives you an overview. So this is my home edge, which is of edge 640 model is there. And then I also have a virtual edge instantiated in AWS cloud in the East Coast region out there. So these are the 2 edges which I'm going to be playing around here with this build a live demo. And this is where, as an enterprise admin, my first step is to create a site for Jeffrey home device. So let's do that. So home edge, I'll select the model. So the model is 510 for Jeffrey. I'll just select a profile, like I mentioned, profiles. So I'm going to select a default profile. Certification, disabled, acquire, required are the 3 options. As we are doing a demo lab environment, you can keep it disabled, or you can say certificate acquire from the orchestrator. That's the device certification. And then the licensing is out there. You can put out a custom info out here. This is where you can type in your administrator username and password, or set a location. I'm just going to click on create out here, and this is where it will generate an unique activation key. So this key, I'm going to click on send activation email. I'm going to send this activation key to Jeffrey. When Jeffrey receives this email, these are the steps he's going to perform. And then he will just click on the link to activate the edge device.
So the 2 things that the person on premises at this branch location requires is that cardboard box containing the device, and this email with this activation code. And that activation code only works from inside the SD-WAN network. I can't use that anywhere else. It's not going to help me. That's how we're establishing trust between the orchestrator and the physical device that Jeffrey has.
All right, here we go. So I got the email right here. We're going to click on this link right here. That should come up, and it'll say configuration. And I didn't have to touch anything. It's hitting the activating button, and I'm assuming it's going to be downloading some stuff right here. It says do not power off the device.
So this is doing that initial connection out, and then talking to the orchestrator to get policy down.
Yeah, so the edge communicates with the orchestrator. They exchange certificates. There is a device certification being exchanged. Once everything is verified, and that's where the zero-touch provisioning process starts and the device gets activated.
There's an activation key on here. Do we have to worry about that security-wise or no?
No.
What about firmware on the device as well? Is that automatically updated? Do I have to take any action to update firmwares on these devices?
You can update the firmware from the orchestrator, even the software images, if you are running 4.0, let's say, release, and now we have a newer release 4.1. So once the enterprise admin puts that image out in a central location in the orchestrator as part of your profile, then it will get automatically updated, or you can kind of schedule it. And like I mentioned, orchestrator is multi-tenant. There are multiple customers hosted on the same orchestrator. So it's not that all orchestrator will be forced to upgrade. It depends on the profile. So you can have different profiles for each customer.
The IT administrator would make that decision whether they would upgrade or not, correct?
Yes. And we can see some events out here. I'm under Monitor Events tab, and I created, you can see here, Edge profile set, activation email sent, received Edge activation, and then software update happening as part of the activation. So now if I go back to monitor edges, it is still doing the initial communication. So
yeah, we just finished the software update, and now it says the Edge must reboot. So I got to hit this, so it'll do that. And then we'll go back to you.
So this is where the Edge device, after the software upgrade, is rebooting, and that's where you see it kind of offline. So you can watch out for the events, and it will get updated out here, and it will be part of the quick start profile. So all the configuration which are part of the quick start profile, Jeffrey Edge device will get all that configuration. And then the next step would be we will kind of configure the LAN side of that Edge device. You could do it as part of the initial creation of the site also. You can pre-populate all the configuration, and once the activation happens, orchestrator can push all that configuration. But I just wanted to show you for the first time with minimal configuration, how the activation is happening. That's why we didn't configure the LAN side of it.
Okay. While we're waiting for the reboot, you had all the boxes that people can get. Why don't you pull those boxes up really quick? Let's take a look at those.
Now I have these different kind of Edge devices starting from 510, 640, 620. So each of the boxes, you can see the port numbers are kind of different. There are LAN ports, there are WAN ports, SFPs ports are also there on the higher end model like the 640. You can see on the side there is a USB port out there on both the sides. So depending on your model, you will have number of ports for the Edge devices.
So where it's a work from home scenario, it's probably one Ethernet port, whereas if it's a branch office, you may well have an MPLS link that was already there, or a backup internet connectivity as well.
And like for you, Alastair, I couldn't send or ship the device to New Zealand in such a short notice, and that's where, for your location, we are going to instantiate a virtual edge in the AWS cloud.
And it looks like Jeffrey's up now.
Yeah, we're good to go.
Link is alive.
Do I have to do anything at this point, or is this something that you could take control over?
No. So now everything, you don't have to do anything. Your only task was to connect the power cable and the internet cable and click on that link. That's it. After that, as an enterprise admin, I can do all that task out here. And you can see here that site is connected. Jeffrey, you have one single link, which is Spectrum, and you have connected it to the GE3 port. So
I should have two connections. I should have my mobile connection as well. And that should be in GE4.
Okay.
So that takes a little bit of time to replicate, correct?
Correct. It takes time and it will come up. But the key here is once it's activated, you don't have to call your service provider to check on what's your upload and download, or you don't have to know to which port I should connect. It will auto detect it will do that auto discovery on its own. You can see here the IP address got populated on its own, the WAN interface, and the upload and the download speed. And this is where it gives you the links, status out here for your site. And this is where you can get more information. It's activated, activation key, when was the last contact from the orchestrator made, what hardware type it is. So your factory software image was 3.x release. During the upgrade, it got released to 4.0, and that's where you get all that information out here. So the next step here would be to do the LAN configuration, and that's where we will move on to the task number 2, which is configuring the LAN side of. I'm going to click on configure this edge, Jeffrey's edge, and we'll go on to the devices. This is where you do all the configurations. So this is where I'll configure it. I'll enable DHCP so that all the host machines which are connected onto the LAN side, and they will get IP address from this edge device. So this edge device is acting as a DHCP server out there. So I'm going to click on update VLAN. I'll go on the top and I'll click on save changes. And at the same time, if you want to use this device as a Wi-Fi, then you can configure the SSID on this VLAN port. And that's what I have done for my home edge device. Let me quickly go over that configuration here. So if I go to devices out here, and I can show you out here. So you can see here, I have configured the Wi-Fi, and my Wi-Fi SSID is VC-BD, which is build A. And you will see that this laptop right now, where I'm doing this live Zoom session, is connected to that Wi-Fi. What it means is my laptop, where I'm sharing this Zoom session, this video, it's connected onto that home edge device out there.
How many? Is it a dual MIMO, or can you do more than 2 wireless? How does that work?
So yeah, depending on the model here, you can do 2. You can see the VLAN 1 and the VLAN 2 out there. So those are the SSID. Or at the same time, working from home, you see many enterprise users who are working from home, they have their own Wi-Fi router. And with this edge device, you can have that flexibility of either disabling that that WLAN, wireless LAN, from the edge device and use that external device. So you can put that in path, off path. So that flexibility is there with VMware SD-WAN. So Jeffrey, now that your laptop, which is connected to the edge device, would have got that LAN side IP address, can you browse a site? Yep. And we can see that traffic goes through the edge device? We can validate that information out there.
Absolutely.
You can see here all the link statistics, top application, what categories those application belongs to, operating system, top sources. This is where Jeffrey home device or that host machine will come, and because that's generating the traffic. If you want more information on the link statistics, you can click on this blue arrow out here, and it will give you all those WAN impairment statistics also at the same time, which means you don't have to log into the third-party device.
And that's going to be really important for things like VoIP over this connection, having that jitter and latency information as well as the packet loss in there. That's going to be gold for troubleshooting voice problems.
That's true. You don't have to log into multiple devices using CLI to check show IP interface statistics or brief and check what's the latency, jitter, packet loss. All that information is kind of pre-populated out here.
And this is being updated on that every 30 seconds with the heartbeat back, isn't it?
Yes, I think in the heartbeat, edge device is just doing a keep alive, but there's kind of 5-minute interval where all these statistics log file are sent to the orchestrator, and then orchestrator publish it out. So when you see the information out here, some of the information will have that 5-minute interval.
Let's talk for a second about the device settings for the Edge 510. Okay. We have the GE1, the GE2, GE3, and GE4. the GE1, GE2 is where you connect to your LAN, but you can also change those, correct? You could actually have 3 connections coming in, correct?
Yes, so there are models like my home device. I can change that WAN port to a routed port. So from a switch port to a routed port, I can change it and I can make it like a WAN. And then the only thing I will have to do is kind of edge override and then enable or disable this WAN overlay. So the moment you disable this WAN overlay, it becomes kind of a LAN port. It's not anymore a WAN port.
What about wireless? Can you do that for a peer-to-peer wireless at all, or do these all only go out?
No, not
Okay.
as no, yeah.
Okay.
And I think now we can see your second connection. Is that the AT&T wireless which is connected to the GE4, and now it shows me that IP address.
That is correct.
Okay, so let's go back to the monitor tab, monitor edges, and I'm going to click on Jeffrey's home edge, and this is where it talks that edge device will talk to the gateway. They will exchange information like that auto discovery, because gateway presence is on the internet, and then all that link statistics information will get populated out here. So it's doing the bandwidth measurement at the same time. So this takes a couple of minutes to do the bandwidth measurement, upload and the download. At the same time, it's doing calculation for that latency, jitter, and packet loss. So I think that will take some time out there.
So we'll take a few moments to let that information update and populate out, and Jeffrey will time travel us through the video, and with a bing, we'll come back. Bing! And bing, we're back, and here's the statistics. It's updated. We can see that the wireless signal is going to give us a much lower bandwidth than we have available through the Spectrum service, so hopefully we don't have to fall back to the wireless for this.
And for this wireless, for the LTE circuit, Jeffrey's bill can go high, so he can make this link as a backup or a standby mode. So in case the Spectrum link goes down, then this backup link can be made active if Jeffrey's worried about the cost for this LTE. But
I've done a couple tests on this, and I've unplugged the Spectrum link, and all the data transfers over to the AT&T. So yeah, I definitely don't want to be running that for a couple hours that way.
Yes. And what website you are browsing from your home laptop, which is connected on the LAN side of this Edge device?
Was just VeloCloud. We had Build Day Live, which is going through a caching system, and then YouTube. So plus a couple other ones you probably will see as back-end websites that are part of BuildDayLive.tv.
Okay,
or
so let's check on that. So I'm going to kind of console. I'm creating a session to your Edge device, and we can check out list active flows.
So this is a real-time connection directly into Jeffrey's appliance on premises, and this is the actual network flows through it.
And you can see here at 2.17, 192.168, 2.17 is the LAN side, that host machine which Jeffrey is using it. You can see the YouTube connections and other applications which are going through it. Amazon is there, LinkedIn is there, and a bunch of other. But this is where this tool comes very handy. Like I mentioned, there is no CLI. So you can see here there are some traffic which are going directly to the cloud. It means it's not going through your gateway, getting optimized to that SaaS application. And there are some traffic which are going through that gateway. So this is where this tool comes very handy for troubleshooting. So you can see here Office 365. It goes via the gateway to Office 365 endpoints out there in the cloud.
I'm noticing that in that list, you also have things like the ports and stuff like that. I'm assuming that you have the ability to block certain ports or certain IP addresses off of the SD-WAN?
Yes. We have an integrated firewall. Like I mentioned earlier, 3,000 plus different applications can be recognized using the DPI engine, which is running as part of this Edge device. So you can block applications based on those 4 tuples: source port, destination port, source IP, destination IP, and even based on the application. So I should say 5. And at the same time, you can go at the sub application level and you can do the configuration. Just to give you an example, you can kind of allow Facebook application, but at the same time, you can block the Facebook Messenger from your home network.
So if I've got two different networks here, I've got a low-cost network and a high-cost network. Can I control what kind of traffic is allowed to go across that high-cost network? And maybe say if the spectrum link with my low-cost network goes down, stop allowing access to Facebook or YouTube and only allow my business applications to use my expensive wireless connection?
Yes, you can do that. From the business policy framework, you have that flexibility to do those link sharing options. So what you're saying is you want to send, let's say, a streaming application traffic through link 1, and you can make that link sharing option as mandatory. What it means is whenever the edge device detects that this is a streaming application, it will pick up that link 1, WAN link 1, and your streaming traffic will go through that. In case of that link 1 goes down, your traffic will not switch over to the next available link, which is your high cost link. But enterprises, they can have that flexibility of having other options. Like they can say, hey, this link 1 is the preferred link. If the preferred link goes down, or if the link condition changes on the preferred link, then switch over the application to the other link. So even that option or that flexibility is there. And we have use cases which we are going to execute. So I have some live use cases where we are going to try out those mandatory, preferred, and the third option, the available option out. Yes.
There was also in there the ability to do that link sharing as well, because we've talked about it as if it's a one or the other. But if this was more of a branch office, you might have multiple connections, and maybe if one connection was getting congested, you'll start using the other. It's all of the same kind of policy configuration, isn't it?
Yes, it's all, and there are smart defaults built in also at the same time. So let's say on day 1, you don't configure all those things. Depending on your smart default, let's say if you are using a bulk application, you are doing let's say 100 meg download from box.com, the edge device will detect, this is a bulk application. It will leverage both the links to do a faster download. If it's a real-time application like the Zoom call, and something happens, like a brownout condition happens to one of the link, then it will start replicating packets on the other link, or it will do some on-demand remediation so that your audio and video for the Zoom session remains intact. So it performs certain default actions. So you don't have to write policies for everything. Smart defaults are already there.
Cool.
So now that we have Jeffrey's edge device up and running, I have my home edge device up and running with 2 links you can see here. And then I also have an edge virtual edge running with a single link. Let's move on to the next task. So what we are going to do here is, Alastair, for you are in New Zealand region. We are going to instantiate a virtual edge in your AWS region. We will use a CloudFormation template to instantiate that virtual edge. With VMware SD-WAN, we support virtual edge on AWS, Azure, Alibaba Cloud, Google Cloud, and all those public clouds out there. This is just to show you an example out here on the screen. So task 3 is where we'll activate an virtual edge. I was not able to drop ship an hardware edge device to New Zealand on time. So Alastair is going to activate an virtual edge in his AWS region. That's the next step we are going to perform. So step 1, as an enterprise admin, again, same thing. I'm going to create a site out here, and model is virtual edge. In this case, I will select the default profile, certificate acquire, licensing, and I'll click on create. So this is going to generate an activation key out here, and I'll send out this activation key using the email. And at the same time, I can pre-populate, or I can do more configuration, and that can be included as part of the activation. So when Alastair activates its virtual edge, that configuration will get pre-populated out here. But there are some minimum requirements out there. So let's say I want to configure the management interface. So I'm just going to configure this IP out here. I'm going to disable DHCP out here. So update VLAN. For this virtual edge on AWS, GE2 interface by default, if you see in hardware appliance, it's a LAN interface out here, but in case of AWS, it's a WAN interface. So I'm going to change the configuration out here and make it a routed port, and that's it. This is what is required on the GE2, and this is all is covered in the VMware documentation out there. And I'm just going to override this and disable the WAN interface on the GE3 link. And this you can pre-populate it as part of a profile also, but I just wanted to show you the process.
And that's particularly because on AWS, you don't get physical layer redundancy in here. This is, we've got a physical device, you've got physical layer redundancy. On AWS, it's provided by the underlying network functionality.
And I can do more advanced configuration out here, like I can enable Cloud VPN, syslog, or whatever information configuration you see out here under the device tab. But let's do this minimal configuration out there. And I have saved the changes. I'm going to send an email to Alastair's email address, New Zealand, just for a reference. And you can see here in the activation email, all the information which is required, like an activation key and the VCO, DNS name or IP address is there. This is what is required for Alastair to activate an edge device. Now, edge device, like I mentioned, CloudFormation template, that's an automated way of using it, or you can use the marketplace to instantiate an edge device. In this case, Alastair will go ahead and use a CloudFormation template, which is downloaded from the VMware download site.
All right, so I have that email. Thank you, Rohan. And I'm here in my AWS console. So I'm logged in as an administrator and popping into CloudFormation. And the other thing that Rohan shared with me was the actual CloudFormation template. So I'm just going to pop into creating a stack and say I have a template to upload. There it is, Greenfield deployment CloudFormation template.
So as a user, if you have your VPC and those public, private subnet, all that configuration already done, then you can use a brownfield template. You can download that template again from the VMware download website.
And because I've got the actual JSON document, I could use that as part of my standard deployment as well. I don't have to just use it by itself. Now this is my... And then I need my activation key, which is in that URL. Now, we've really done segregation of duties here because you had this information in that console. If you were the administrator of this AWS account, you could have just copied and pasted. You didn't need to use the email to get that information. But because you're not allowed to create things in my AWS account, we're doing segregation of duties. Availability zone is AP Southeast 2A.
So is that the region in New Zealand, Alastair?
Unfortunately, there's no region in New Zealand. My nearest region is across the Tasman from me, 2 time zones away in Sydney, Australia. So we don't yet have an AWS region actually here in New Zealand. Certificate winning, we were turning that one on, weren't we? We wanted version 3.31 of the software, and then we want the orchestrator in there as well. That's also in that URL you sent me. What else am I doing? Edge name. Let's just use the stack name as my edge name. Doesn't have to match up to what you put in the console, does it?
And just to let you know, anything you before you click on the next button, any resource which gets created as part of this CloudFormation template will have a prefix, which I'm highlighting VeloCloud here in this case. So you can customize it, you can change it.
I think because you worked for VeloCloud for so long, we'll leave it as VeloCloud.
Yeah, the shirt I'm wearing also has VeloCloud.
But the product is now the VMware software-defined WAN, SD-WAN product.
Now it's VMware SD-WAN.
Of course, then I've got all of my stack things in here and create my tags for cost control and those kinds of things. That's all standard AWS stuff, really. It's just this parameters section that's being specific to this CloudFormation stack.
So this is just giving you a summary, what private subnets you are using, public subnet, what's the prefix, what version you are using, VCO, and other information which is required to activate this virtual edge device.
Correct. Don't need the notification, standard rollback. We'll just go and create that stack. So now we've got to create in progress. Let's see what we get. Resources being created. Once you click on
events or resources, you will see the progress happening. VPC, the private subnet, the public subnet, the IGW, and all those networking parameters for instantiating any EC2 device, security groups. All those will get.
There we go. So we've got subnets, we've got route tables, we've got VPC attachment for the internet gateway. Lots of creates. Oh, we've got some rules going into some security groups there.
That's the security group which is getting created. And the interesting one is the allow VCMP. If you remember, UDP 2426 is the one for the VMware SD-WAN overlay tunnel.
Cool. More creates in progress. So that VeloCloud Edge is our actual appliance being deployed. There's its network interfaces being attached to it. Elastic IP address for its public side, so that we get a nice consistent public side IP address.
I think that's one of the last steps where Elastic IP gets created, associated to that EC2.
We've still got to create in progress. So let's see if we get some more. There we go, VeloCloud Edge, the whole stack create complete. So we have our stack has been created. We've got a whole lot of resources that have been created in that stack. And of course, if I go through into my VPC, then I should see all of my resources deployed out in there. So I will see my.
So there will be a prefix. Yes.
Yeah, SATA ranges are associated. We get our subnets that were created by the CloudFormation template. And again, VeloCloud on the naming. And then I'm assuming I'm going to see an EC2 instance that's running the actual VeloCloud software. Yes. So I've got, EC2 instance, IP addresses, public.
And if you remember,
IP addresses here.
Yes, that's the Elastic IP which gets created. That's how you can access that edge device.
Now, again, segregation of duties. I have no, as the AWS administrator, I can't do anything to configure this VeloCloud Edge device. That's all being done by you through the orchestrator. That's correct, isn't it? It's not something I can control. My duty is to look after my AWS infrastructure and the workloads I have on here.
And as an enterprise admin, I have access to the orchestrator, and that's where further configuration, whatever configuration we do on this edge device, will be done from the orchestrator.
In that case, I better hand control back to you. So now you have control, and it looks like my edge is working. It's a green tick or green box there showing in Sydney.
Yes, it shows up in the Australia region in this map view. Let's check the list view out here for your edge device. This is your edge. Your site is up and running, connected. Edge device can talk to the orchestrator with a single link out here. We can click and we can get the similar information what we saw for Jeffrey. All that auto discovery happens with the help of the gateway in your region, and I can get link statistics, latency, jitter, packet loss, along with the upload download speed. And once you connect a host, browse any traffic, we'll see those application traffic, top sources. And so now we have activated two edge devices, one hardware device at Jeffrey's home in East Coast, my edge device in West Coast, which was pre-populated. I also have a AWS edge device and now an edge device in New Zealand region. And the next step we will see is now how these edge devices can talk to each other, how these edge devices can connect to resources which are sitting behind as edge devices on the LAN side. Over to you, Alastair.
Thanks, Rohan. So it's been pretty cool to do the deployment of the physical appliance and the deployment of the virtual appliance and see that we have a very simple process for the actual final configuration of either the physical or virtual. Was really nice to see that go through quickly. And I particularly like that we had that complete segregation of duties when we're doing the AWS deployment. Now, absolutely, when Rohan is deploying his own edge appliance in AWS using the same console, he doesn't have to segregate that, but that was pretty cool. And the whole thing was seamless and policy-driven. I love policy-driven. Join us again for future episodes. We will keep looking some more at the VMware SD-WAN, in particular routing between all of these pieces and security components. We were expecting to cover more in this episode, but it was just so much content in here to learn about this. So stay with us, subscribe, like, and go visit the velocloud.com site, soon to be VMware SD-WAN site, and visit us on Build Day Live.